What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Wednesday, April the 10th. Just some things on my mind while doing the talks on the walk. I want to talk about the lamestream media. CNN, NBC, CBS, Washington Post, just to name a few. Basically, all news outlets that are left stream media, lamestream media. What else can I call them? Left-leaning media, severe left media, way left media. So I see a lot of comments regarding some people's thoughts on Trump. They say Trump is a criminal. He's a rapist. He's committed fraud, Russian collusion. That there will be what's the word? Not bloodshed. He said there'd be a bloodbath if he wasn't elected president, and that he said he planned on being a dictator. All these things. But what's funny about all these things is those things are all put forward and presented by lamestream media. So let's just go back to the beginning. Back in 2016, when he was first campaigning for president, Hillary Clinton decided to launch a fraudulent campaign against him, claiming that he was colluding with Russia and that the election was going to be influenced by Russia, all these things. And it's been proven time and time again, and heads were actually rolling on that, that was all false. So we know that to be false. So that was bullshit to begin with, right? So that's that. And then I keep hearing he shouldn't be president because he has 94 indictments against him, and he's been found guilty of being a rapist and all these other things. Well, he's been brought to court for all these things, no doubt, and we call that lawfare. So the left and the Democrats are saying that he is guilty of all these things, and so they have their DAs. Only in the blue states are people doing this. Only in New York, only in Georgia, and places where it is, of blue sway, is he being charged with anything. Never in a red state, obviously. And the reason for that is because they want to pin a felony on him, because that will keep him from being able to run for president. So just to put it in perspective, they are trying 94 times to indict him on some kind of a criminal ground where it would keep him from running for president, but they failed to do so every step of the way. The ones that they did find him guilty of, for example, the case with Judge Enderon and Letitia James for $354 million, that one's going to appeals and will be fully reversed. So even though there are some wins that the Democrats have been able to pull off, they're going to come back around and just be undone by appeals, because once the appeals courts see the reality of what's been going on in those cases, they will just be undone. So there's that. And regarding the rapist thing, E. Jean Carroll, New York had to create a new law stating that you can go back beyond the limits that law required to be able to bring somebody to court. So they created that law for 1 year. So for 1 year, if you had any grudges against anybody, you could say that guy raped me, that guy molested me, that guy, sexually assaulted me, and of course they would bring that to bear in a courthouse, in a courtroom. I've only heard of one case that came out of that, and that's the one against Donald Trump. So they had to make a law in New York to even bring that case to trial. And as I recall, he was found innocent of that crime against E. Jean Carroll. E. Jean Carroll was then able to bring and then Trump said, I never did that to that woman. She's crazy, right? So now they got her for, they got Trump for defaming her, and that's what that case was all about. So there's that. And what else was there? The bloodbath thing. So Trump had a speech that he was doing in front of the I think it was in Detroit. He was talking about the auto industry, and he said And these are his words, and I'll find the video and post that here as well. His words were, if China thinks they're going to build these big car manufacturing facilities in Mexico and just ship their cheap cars over here to the United States to benefit China and not the US, then they're mistaken. He said, if I'm elected president, it's not going to be a problem for the auto manufacturing companies here in the United States, right? But if I'm not elected, then it's going to be a bloodbath. Bloodbath meaning the bloodbath to the car manufacturers here in the US. So left-wing media took that out of context, and there you go. It was a big thing. So, and then what was the other one? The other one was they keep calling him a dictator. Trump said he was going to be a dictator. So he was interviewed about what he would do when he became president, and he was asked point blank, would you be a dictator? And he said, no, I wouldn't be a dictator, except for on day one. On day one, we're going to drill, baby, drill, and he's going to deport all the illegal aliens that came in. That's what he said. So regarding his dictatorship, it ends on day one, when he would do exactly what he's been saying he's going to do anyway. So that's that. And mainstream media says all these things about him, and it's all out of context, and it's all lies. And it just is unbelievable how many people actually believe it. They don't even bother to see or to search for the actual video or do their own due diligence to see exactly where this information came from. If the people who believe this garbage did nothing more than a little due diligence, just a little research, and look at the actual videos where these allegations came from, they would see that it's bullshit. So I'm going to say to all of you out there who just quote what they see on the news, on mainstream media, who just quote news stories like as if it's truth or as if it's real, you're wrong. The mainstream media is nothing but cheerleaders for the Democrats, and they will only report on things that benefit the Democrats, and they will only report on mostly lies and BS just to better Biden's chance of winning a second term in the presidency. So that's all that mainstream media is good for. Their news is outrageous. It's mostly lies, and it's just dirt digging on one guy. And when you think about it, that actually means a lot. Like, I would actually wear that as a badge of honor if all of mainstream media was focused on me because of my ideals and my thoughts and the way I would run the country, then I would say that I'm doing a good job. So anyway, there's that. Tell me what your thoughts are.
And the head of the United Auto Workers never probably shook hands with a Republican before. They're destroying. Mexico has taken over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it. Went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. No, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine, all he does is build car manufacturing plants. He's the biggest in the world. I mean, honestly, I joke about it. He can't walk across the street. In that way, he's like Biden. But for building a plant, he can do the greatest plants in the world, right? That's all he cares about. I said, I'd like to see one of your plants recently. I said, I'd like to see, where can we go? well, we have to travel to Mexico. I said, why Mexico? He said, because that's where the big plants are building. China's building really big plants in Mexico, and Mexico's building. What about here? Well, we're building much smaller plants here. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? So what they're saying, Jim Jordan, is that we're going to make cars in Mexico, and they're going to do. You're not going to stand for that, Bernie, JD. I have a feeling JD's not big into that policy. 100% tariff. They won't sell any cars over here. And I'll tell them, if they want to build a plant in Michigan, in Ohio, in South Carolina, they can, using American workers. They can. They can't send Chinese workers over here, which they sometimes do. But if they want to do that, we're welcome, right? But they're not going to build them in Mexico, and they're not going to do that. We're going to tariff them at 100%, just like I've done. I saved the steel industry. The people that like me the most are the steel companies. But now I've been out for a little while, and guess what? United States Steel, 50 years, 60 years ago, maybe the greatest company in the world, was just sold to Japan. How do you like that? U.S. Steel, owned and controlled by Japan. I wouldn't have allowed it to happen. Hopefully they won't allow it to happen. When I'm